What's up everyone, welcome to the video. We're here breaking down the Toyota Mart 350 at Sonoma Raceway for Sunday, June 11th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. That's right, we're heading out to wine country in Cali, taking on Sonoma, our second road course race of the season. And I know road courses are not the most exciting tracks in the world. They can kind of be a bit of a snoozer, especially since they got rid of stage breaks this year. So unless there's some cautions, we're not going to get bunched back up. I'm sure there will be one at some point, but there's a very strong chance this could be a very long green flag run, and that might end up being some pretty boring racing, depending on if somebody can really pull away from the field. But either way, even if it's not that entertaining, I've had some of my best weekends ever on road courses, so hopefully the trends can continue. But it really is just a matter of fact that the same kind of guys are up front almost every single week at these road courses, at least what we've seen so far in the next gen cars. So if we don't get any surprises, and obviously we're going to have practice and qualifying coming up this evening, it should tell a pretty good story on who's going to be fast this weekend, and then we'll have to build from there. But either way, before we get too far into it, if this is your first time here, what's up? My name is Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. You can also find me live on Sunday mornings breaking down the entire slate and answering any questions you guys may end up having. And I plan on being live around 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, so come in, hang out, ask me all the questions you want, usually a good time before the race starts. And if you do enjoy today's free content, the one thing I ask in return is leaving a like on the video, subscribing to the channel if you are brand new, and feel free to leave a comment down below. Being nice, being mean, I don't really care either way, but I'd love to hear from you. And really quick, I do have to mention the sponsor of the show, Prize Picks and Underdog, because they do make these videos possible. And as of right now, if you're a new user on either site, promo code CPEN will get you a deposit match bonus up to $100. There is no strings attached, it is free money. Please use that to your advantage using the link down below in the description or the pinned comment. And do not forget, Prize Picks is still running their NBA Playoffs promo where a random user is going to be randomly selected to win up to $1 million on a 6 out of 6 entry. So again, check it out, either prizepicks.com or head over to Underdog as well, and promo code CPEN will hook you up on either site. All right, so moving on to the strategy portion of this video, we're at Sonoma. It's a road course on the technical side. I'd say it's most comparable to like Watkins Glen, also Coda, and Road America, although we don't really run there anymore. And you can also throw in the Rovals for similar tracks, but I do think we should probably compare this mostly to the more technical road courses, but I will add some data to the Rovals as well. But we only have 110 laps, so take 70% of that. That's not that many Dominator points this weekend, so we don't really care about Dominators. Now, for example, if like a Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott's on the pole, yeah, we're going to play them as kind of a Dominator, but at the same time, we're just focusing on finishing position. I don't really care about place differential too much. I'm recording this part before practice, before qualifying, so assuming we don't have some big name driver in the back that starts 36, we will probably end up having all the best and fastest drivers starting at the front of the field. Obviously, there's going to be some outliers here and there, but I think the guys that probably start up front will more than likely finish up front outside of issues or just some driver that we probably can assume will fade back a little bit. But if we get like Michael McDowell, Chris Buescher, we saw those guys qualify, it seemed like in the top 10 last year almost every single road course, and guess what? They stuck there the entire time and gained a few spots because they were actually contenders. So starting position is going to be huge because that track position is going to be really important throughout the day for sure. And finally, moving on to the driver by driver breakdown portion here, I do have to mention one thing first, and it's actually pretty awesome, and a lot of people have taken advantage of it so far, and I do appreciate all the people that have stayed on. But Patreon now offers free trials for a week, so if you want to hop in, try out the projections, if you've ever been on the fence, you know, this is your opportunity to be able to try it, check it out and see if you like it, and if you don't, well, you can leave. If not, you can stay on. I'd love to have you. But I got all the projections on there, my simulation scores, optimizer, ownership projections, cheat sheets, data sheets, all the data you never need, color coded nice and neat. So it's quite easy to follow. In my Discord, I do cover other sports as well, including the MLB, each and every single day in a similar fashion. So if you want to come in, check it out, you can get a week for free. So there's no downside to it. You can just try out the content. If you like it, you can stay. If not, well, you can leave. All right, so practice and qualifying just ended a few moments ago. So we're going to go through this together for the first time, just my first initial reactions to the entire slate, pricing, starting spots, and things like that. I'll have the most up-to-date thoughts and opinions over on the Patreon and for the live stream tomorrow morning. And these are not the most up-to-date odds. I'm sure things are going to change. I'll let you guys know my opinions on those, and I'll let you guys know what I bet early on in the week and during practice when FanDuel had their lines open. So let's go up top with the man, Kyle Larson, $10,600 on DraftKings, 13.5. Over on FanDuel, he is surprisingly, and I mean very surprisingly, starting in 16th. I believe he had like 5 or 6 straight poles here. I believe it's been since 2016 than someone other than Kyle Larson that started the pole here at Sonoma in the Cup Series, which is just absolutely insane. This is a great track for him, and obviously he killed it in practice, and for the Xfinity race he qualified in the pole by like 6/10 of a second, I believe, something like that. And he's minus 134 to win the race, which is absolutely insane, depending on which book you're looking at. So yeah, he knows this place quite well, and he opened up as the tied with a couple guys as the odds-on favorite to win this race. Beforehand, he was tied with Tyler Reddick to win. I believe he actually moved to plus 350 before I posted some new odds in here. But I mean, yeah, it's gonna be hard not to like Kyle Larson here. And with him not starting on the pole, I mean, the only question with him is since it's a road course, do you want to roll with him on the pole? Because if he doesn't happen to win the race or dominate, it's gonna be tough to kind of be in the optimal that way, especially at his massive price point. But with him starting in 16th, I mean, his ownership is going to be insanely high. If you're playing cash games, I think you have to roll with him. Tournaments, obviously, there's other ways to get different for sure. You can roll with the Tyler Reddick or really anybody in this price range or below him if you're trying to get off the ownership. But I mean, everything points to Kyle Larson having a pretty good race here. He was first in the 1 lap, first in the 5 lap. Green flag speed-wise, he looks pretty solid. And overall this year, I mean, he's had pretty much the best car. And if we're looking at the recent track history, which this is not Sonoma specifically, we're looking at technical road courses in the next-gen car. And then for the similar track history, we have all the road course races in the next-gen car, which is going to include the Roval. So I think it makes more sense, though, to look at the technical road courses more so. But some of these finishes and stuff can be skewed because, I mean, if you just have one bad finish at a road course, we don't have that many races at them to get a huge data set. So I know Kyle Larson's numbers aren't like super impressive here, but he's had 2 top 5 and some laps led and some overall decent numbers. But yeah, I mean, Larson, heavy ownership, probably going to be one of, if not the highest owned driver on the entire slate. And I get it. I like him a lot, quite a bit on both sites. Tyler Reddick, $10,400, $13K over on FanDuel. He's starting in second, and he makes for an interesting pivot off of Kyle Larson. Wasn't as fast in practice, but did put down some pretty good laps down in qualifying. We know how good he's been in the next-gen car road courses, just absolutely killing it. And heading into Dakota, my only concern for Tyler Reddick was, is he going to be as good in a Toyota since they just had no speed at all last year at the road courses? But he dominated. He won COTA. And the Toyotas overall seem to have a lot of speed here at Sonoma. So things are looking up for Toyota here at road courses, which is nice to see. We have a Toyota front row, actually, with Denny Hamlin as owner for 2311 Racing. So I think Tyler Reddick's a fine tournament play. I mean, if you're looking at his numbers, 2 wins, 3 top 5s, and 5 races at the technical road courses, and overall just some really, really strong numbers. So he can definitely be a dominator early on, although, like I said, I'm not really rostering guys to be dominators. I'm just rostering them for finishing position. But I'm assuming most of the ownership here, I've not read my numbers, but I'm assuming most people are going to go Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott if they can afford both. I mean, these are 2 of the best road course racers. Obviously, Tyler Reddick's right there with them, as good as he's been the past couple of seasons now. But people are going to chase that PD, and everyone likes the Hendrick cars here. So I don't mind him as a tournament pivot. Just know he's going to have to kind of be flawless here starting in second, because starting in 16th, starting in 10th, there's a lot more leeway there. So if you're playing Reddick, you're basically hoping he leads some laps and pretty much wins the race, which it's certainly possible. I'm probably going to give that around a 12 to 14% chance once I run sims. So I think that should probably reflect in your exposure. He's definitely not a fade. Just know the ownership would definitely be lower since he's sandwiched in between the 2 Hendrick guys and Chase Elliott. You can kind of put him in the same grouping as Kyle Larson, just doesn't start as far back. And he had a decent lap going, I believe, in qualifying, but ended up having to save the car, so he ended up qualifying last in that second group once they advanced. So starting in 10th, you get some PD mixed in there. Just I'm going to mix and match all 3 of these guys up top. But in order of preference, I think as of right now, I'd have Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and then Tyler Reddick. And that's probably how the ownership is going to go as well. Then we have Kyle Busch here, $10,100. He's starting in 12th, and if you remove the Rovals, he's been really good at the technical road courses. The problem was he wasn't that great in practice. 15th in the 1 lap and 18th in the 5 lap. I would have liked to see at least a little bit more out of Kyle Busch. I think he will improve upon this 12th place starting spot, though, because we typically see him contending for top 5s at these types of tracks. So I'm okay with some Kyle Busch, but again, he's a tournament play similar to Tyler Reddick. Your chalky plays will be Larson and Elliott, and your pivots in this range are going to be Reddick and Kyle Busch. Dropping down to the 9K range, we have our 3rd Hendrick car, $9,900 for William Byron, 12.5 over on FanDuel. And this starting spot's definitely going to garner some ownership, but I do have some concerns. It just seems like the 2014 missed the setup this week or something, because they were just overall really slow. It's not like he just messed up a qualifying lap and he was fast in practice. No, this is kind of on par with his practice speeds, 25th in the 1 lap, 29th in the 5 lap. So this team has a lot of ground to make up. He was pretty fast at COTA, so I was kind of surprised at what we saw. And don't look at these rankings here. They're not up to date yet. But I do assume most projection systems are going to love William Byron because the odds they're definitely going to go up. He was at plus 850. I mean, he's probably going to have a 1 or even a 2 to start that number once we see new odds drop. But projection systems are going to like William Byron because he's always a top 10 contender just about everywhere. So just know that the ownership will definitely be there, and this is not a bad candidate to be underweight. I'll have to see what the projections say, and I'm assuming my projections will like William Byron as well. But we have guys that I think are excellent pivots who actually at least showed some speed here coming up in the 9K range. So for cash games, I get it for William Byron, but I am concerned about the lack of speed because I'm just not sure how much ground they're going to be able to make up when everybody else is going to be making adjustments as well. So it just seems like the 2014 might struggle a little bit on Sunday. Ross Chastain, $9,700, 15th starting spot here, opened up at plus 900, although I got him at plus 1,400 over on the Barstool Sportsbook earlier in the week, just 0.6 units on that. I actually grabbed both Trackhouse cars with how good they were at the road courses last year. So I got Suarez at plus 1,800 for 0.6 units and plus 1,400 for Ross Chastain. But Chastain wasn't bad in practice. I mean, 6th in the 5 lap, and obviously if we're looking at his numbers, the technical road courses last year, some of the best, really. 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, had a win under his belt. I believe that one was at COTA. And he finished 4th at COTA earlier in the season as well. So starting in 15th, I mean, he's definitely a nice pivot off of William Byron if he's going to have lower ownership, because it just looks like the car is going to be a lot faster and track position is going to be big. And William Byron does not have that this week. Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain's teammate. Like I said, I got bets on both these guys to win this weekend. He's starting in 9th, and I didn't do this after practice. I did these pre-practice. So, I mean, we'll see what the numbers suggest, but I did have value on both these guys, the numbers that I got. So his 1 lap in practice wasn't very good for Suarez, but he made that up in qualifying. Definitely looked a lot faster, and he was top 10 starting in 9th here. So I think Daniel Suarez is definitely a fine tournament play. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. I remember last year at a road course, I think we got him like in the 7K range, and he was starting in the teens. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case anymore, because if you're looking at green flag speed, I mean, he's just been one of the best overall drivers at road courses in the next gen car. Actually looking at a 4.4 for the specific tracks that I'm looking at, which is the best mark of all drivers. And if you're looking for similar tracks, only behind AJ Allmendinger as far as just raw speed. So hard not to like Suarez. So you definitely have to have him in the GPP pool, and I also had him for a top 10, I believe, at minus 121 over on Barstool as well. So I definitely got some action on Suarez this weekend. So needing a good race, but I feel pretty good about the track position that he got. Then AJ Allmendinger always has to be in your tournament pool. He's starting in 5th, so not much leeway here. He's got to be really good, but I mean, he's P3 in the 1 lap in practice, P2 in the 5 lap. We know how good he is at road course. He's going to be a contender. Wouldn't be surprised if he runs pretty much the top 5 majority of the day. So I think you have to have some dinger there. And at that price point, sometimes he gets a little bit lower owned than he should, just because he's not your typical guy that's in that 9K range. People don't want to spend $9,300 on AJ Allmendinger where they get a Truex at $800, a Bell at 86, a Blaney 84. So it just feels a little bit gross doing it, but I definitely don't have a problem with it. And then we have Austin Cindric at $9,100. He is starting all the way back in 34th. And this is another guy, similar to William Byron, where projection systems are going to like this. He's a good road course driver. Looking at his numbers in the next gen car, he was a rookie last season, but 5 race sample size. Average finish is 7.8. That's the second best number here at the technical road courses, only behind Ross Chastain and Chase Elliott, I should say. But he had 4 top 5s last year, 5 top 10s, which is tied for the most of all drivers. I believe tied with Kevin Harvick and Michael McDowell. So yeah, he was there just about every single race last season, but it just does not look like he has any speed this week. 26th in the 1 lap in practice, so I have concerns. He's another guy that projection systems will like, and if you're playing cash games, I don't hate it because there's a lot of cushion there, but I don't think there's going to be an incredible amount of passing, and these guys just don't look like they have that much speed. So I'd be a little bit cautious with Cindric. I just feel like you're kind of chasing PD maybe a bit too much there. He's someone you're going to have to roster a little bit just in case, obviously, but I'm a little bit worried about the speed. Denny Hamlin kicking us off in the 8K range. He's only $7,200 over on FanDuel, and I saw he was pretty fast in practice, so I was like, well, shoot, he's free on FanDuel. He's definitely going to be someone we're getting to. Unfortunately, he's on the pole, which just makes it a little bit tough because, again, he has like no room for error. I mean, he's at the price point where it's not like he's $11,000 where he basically has to win. Like, if he leads some laps and finishes like in the top 3, it can work out still. But it's definitely a tougher path. I mean, I don't think I'd play him in cash games just because if he doesn't dominate a good portion of this race and not win, but finish top 3, it's going to be a bit tough. And I would say the chances of all 3 of those hitting are probably somewhat slim. But he's definitely got to be in the pool. It seems like Toyota has figured out road courses now, and he definitely had quite a bit of speed. I know practice wasn't amazing, 13th in the 1 lap and 10th in the 5 lap, but man, he looked great in qualifying. Now, if you're looking at the recent track history, it's not going to look pretty on most of these Toyotas. And if you see for Denny Hamlin, average finish of 20.4 in running position, barely inside the top 20 with the drive rating of 65.9, which is, yeah, by far the worst until we hit Brad Keselowski down here. So I think you have to have some Denny, but it's going to be tough to get to a lot of him just because he's starting in the pole. And I don't think he has the best car. I think someone will get him eventually. It's just he does have track position working in his favor. Martin Truex Jr., though, he's a guy I like a lot. And when I was watching practice, I did get some action on him on FanDuel because they didn't pull the lines down for some reason. They leave it open during practice sometimes. And I just thought a lot of his numbers were mispriced. So I like that he got good track position. He's starting in 8th. He's pretty cheap on both sites. And starting in 8th, that's actually a nice sweet spot where the ownership might not be too high. But it's also not where he's starting high up enough to where it's almost like you have to avoid it, kind of like Hamlin. I'm not saying to avoid Hamlin. I'm just saying it's kind of tough to get there. But for Truex, he could definitely be a top 5 contender, and actually got a small bet on him to finish top 3 at plus 850. I'm assuming that's going to go in my favor once new lines are out, and I got top 10 at plus 105. So I felt pretty good about those numbers. Really at the practice speeds, he was P2 in the 1 lap, P5 in the 5 lap. And even though Toyota's kind of struggled last year at road courses, Truex wasn't like horrible. He did have a top 10, 2 top 15s, and the numbers were not bad given the circumstances of the Toyotas, but looks like they're back, and I definitely have some interest in Truex this weekend in tournaments. And over on FanDuel, I really like him there at $8,200. Christopher Bell, $8,600. He's $10K over on FanDuel. I'll be honest, it's going to be kind of hard to get to Bell. I know he's won at a road course before. I believe it was the Daytona Roval. But starting in 4th, if you're looking at practice, P22 in the 1 lap, P16 in the 5 lap. There's just other guys behind him that I think are going to pass him, like AJ Allmendinger. I wouldn't be surprised if like a Chris Buescher gets him. Then you're going to have Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, all those guys move through the field. Dale Suarez, Ross Chastain. So I feel like he's going to be one of those guys that fades back a bit. So don't really have too much Christopher Bell interest. Ryan Blaney, $8,400, $7,800 over on FanDuel. He's going to project quite a bit in the optimal, I'm assuming, over on FanDuel starting in 31st. And it's not like he's a terrible road course driver. I mean, he had an average finish of 13.6 at them last year, but it seems like some of the Fords overall just were really struggling in practice and qualifying. Like Ryan Blaney wasn't great, Austin Cindric, Brad Keselowski, although Brad Keselowski always struggles, it seems like, at road courses these days. And Kevin Harvick, I wouldn't say was amazing either. So they were just down a little bit. I know Ryan Blaney's been hot, but road course are definitely a lot different than what we've seen at Charlotte in the Gateway last weekend. So he's going to be a cash play. People are going to play him, and I get it. I don't think he's going to be a 30th place car, but again, there's got to be a little bit cautious because there's definitely pivots to be had. Like, I feel like I might end up going a little bit heavier on Truex compared to Blaney, but he's still someone you're going to have exposure to because I feel like my sims are going to say he's going to be optimal around like 30-ish% of the time, if not more. So something you have to take in consideration. Joey Logano, $8,300. He's starting in 17th. I'd personally rather just play Ryan Blaney. I feel like the speed would be pretty similar, so why not just play the guy starting in the very back. Kevin Harvick, $8,100. So I feel like I'm not going to try to overreact to the practice too much for him, because I don't think he's going to be a fringe top 30 car, especially with how fast he was at Sonoma last year. But I'm a little concerned. But I think he's fine. Like, if I had to rank some of these guys in the 8K range, I feel like I'd probably have Harvick above, say, a Christopher Bell. I'd have him over Joey Logano, and I think it'd be somewhat close with Alex Bowman. So he's okay. Whatever the optimizer gives me, I'll take. Because if you look at the numbers last year at the technical road courses, I mean, Kevin Harvick, average finish of 10th. He had 5 top 15s in 5 races. Like, he's just one of those drivers where maybe he's not going to be extremely fast, but he doesn't really make too many mistakes. And a lot of guys are going to make mistakes on road courses over the course of a long run. So if Harvick's just going to be nice and steady, he could find his way into a top 15, top 10, which is not a bad day starting in 21st. And Alex Bowman, not a bad road course racer, had 2 top 5s last year, 4 top 15s, and the top 20 each and every single time. So I think he's a fine tournament play. Similar to Kevin Harvick, just starting a little bit further up. So we'll probably will not project quite as well. Then dropping down to the 7K range, we have Chris Buescher, $700 on DraftKings, a little bit more expensive over on FanDuel at $9,000, but he's starting in 7th, and I feel like him and Michael McDowell, same exact plays every single road course last year. They start anywhere from like 3rd to 8th. They're cheap every single time, and then they finish right around where they started, which is perfectly fine at their price point. So Chris Buescher, I certainly have interest here starting in 7th. Looking at his numbers last year at the technical road courses, he had 4 top 10s, which is really good. Average finish of 9.2. So starting at 7th, I'm hoping that keeps people away from him, but I have no problem at all with Chris Buescher in 8th in the 5 lap in practice, which is kind of right on par with where he qualified. But if he just held ground all day at $7,900, I'll take it. And I believe he finished 2nd here last year. Brad probably going to have to be an auto fade for me. He just spins every single road course, and even in practice, if you saw him take a spin. So I know the PD is there, but I would much rather play Chris Buescher. I'd rather play Ty Gibbs and Michael McDowell personally. So I'll let other people chase the place differential. If it burns me, it burns me, I guess. But I don't want to be a part of it. Ty Gibbs at $7,500. He's starting at 6. Looks like he's got some speed this weekend in his car, and Toyota overall just doesn't look bad at all. So $7,500. I don't mind taking a JGR car in tournaments. Michael McDowell, $7,400. He's starting in 3rd. Wish he was kind of like starting from like anywhere from like 5th to 8th. It's more of a sweet spot, but it's just going to lower his ownership. And I mean, Michael McDowell road courses, I mean, you got to have some interest for sure. They actually placed a very small bet on him. He was at plus 4,500 on DK, but 0.2 units on that. I'm assuming that's going to go way down starting in 3rd, especially what we saw in practice. So I feel like I got a really good number on that. Also got him as the Group A winner at plus 280. It was Group A or Group C, I forget. But I think he was going against not some great drivers. Like Joey Logano was in there, or maybe Brad Keselowski. I mean, I definitely thought Michael McDowell was the best driver in the group, although I think Truex was in there. So that's probably going to be the main battle. But either way, I mean, I like what I saw from Michael McDowell. P3 in the 5 lap, P5 in the 1 lap. And looking at road courses last year for him, 3 top 10s, 5 top 15s. And I believe at COTA early in the season, he was running well, then he got screwed, and then he gained like 20 spots at the end or something like that. Either way, but yeah, you gotta have Michael McDowell in your player pool, even though he's starting 3rd. I think that just makes him a better tournament play. But Wallace, $7,200, auto fade at road courses, just it's a bad time. Looking at 5 races last year, average finish at 36.2, and running position's not much better. He just makes too many mistakes. Like, he might not be bad at some points during the race, but at some point he's probably going to make a mistake. So I'm just going to pass from Bubba and just hope one of your drivers is not around him when he does make that mistake. Chase Briscoe, $7,000. I know we kind of view him as a good road course racer, but to be honest, he just hasn't really showed up. Like, can he be a top 15 contender? Sure, but I don't really have that much interest in Chase Briscoe, to be honest. Did have 3 top 15s last year in 5 races, but I just feel like there's better plays on the board. I'd rather get up to like a McDowell personally and Chris Buescher in this range. I mean, Briscoe might not be the worst play in this range. He might actually be like the 3rd or 4th best, but it's still nothing to be too excited about. Eric Jones kicking us off in the 6K range. He's starting in 28th, so we do have some place differential to work with. If you're looking at practice, though, he was 20th in the 1 lap, so right on par with where he's starting, and I'm afraid he's just going to be one of those guys where, yeah, it looks good because he's got PD and he's had some success at road courses in the past, but I don't know, I just don't really feel like the upside is anything too crazy. If you're looking for a cheap play with PD, he's fine. He's probably the best play in the 6K range, to be honest, either him or Austin Dillon, but that doesn't mean I have to love it. Haley starting in 23rd. I actually don't mind it for road course. He did have 4 top 20s last year. Like, he's kind of a similar play to Eric Jones, just not as much PD, but he wouldn't be bad as a pivot option. Eric Almirola hated road courses, just absolutely dreadful. Pull out their practice speeds for those interested. And plus, Haley was P6 in the 1 lap as well. Now, do I think he's got a 6th place car? No, but can he be a top 20 guy? Yes. And will he be lower owned than Jones? Also, yes. Ryan Preece just didn't really have any speed. I don't have too much interest there. Andy Lawley, I don't know why he's $6,200. I'll pass on that. Austin Dillon. So Austin Dillon I don't hate. He's $6,100. The ownership's going to be low because of where he's starting. But he was 8th in the 1 lap, 11th in the 5 lap. And I know AD used to be just like kind of like Bubba Wallace where he just auto-faded road courses every single time. But he has definitely gotten a lot better. So I don't mind him as the tournament option there, $6,100. He's cheap and he's got legit top 15 upside. So I don't mind it. 5K range, Ricky Stenhouse at $5,900. He's starting at 13th. Not bad in the 1 lap, but then fell off here in the 5 lap. Not really a guy I love on road courses, but I might be willing to take a stab or two just because he's got track position, but I do prefer Austin Dillon. Zane Smith at $5,700. He's in Todd Gilliland's car this week, and I actually don't hate Zane Smith here starting in 30th. I wish he showed us some more speed, but I actually don't mind him as a place differential play. Harrison Burton starting dead last year in 36. I mean, if you just want to filter him in, it's fine. I don't really have a strong Harrison Burton stance, but maybe projection systems will like him for a cheap play. Grant Effinger filling in for Noah Gragson because he was dealing with some concussion-like symptoms, I guess. I mean, there was the brake rotor issue last week, and he was one of the victims. So he's filling in, but he just looks slow, and I'll probably pass on that. Corey LaJoie starting in 19th. Looks like one of those guys that should be able to hold ground, and I don't think a lot of people are going to want to go there because there's a lack of place differential. Then you have Todd Gilliland starting in 32nd, but I actually don't hate it for LaJoie. 17th, the 1 lap, 15th, and the 5 lap. I mean, that's a lot faster than most of these guys in this price range. So LaJoie should definitely be in your tournament pool. Todd Gillen, $5,200. He's starting in 32nd, and unfortunately, not in his front row car this week. He's in the 51 car for Rick Ware Racing, and he wasn't terrible in practice given the circumstances he's in. 27th in the 1 and 22nd in the 5, but it's fine. Not great. Just one of those drivers you filter in at the end. Ty Dillon, probably going to be a hard pass for me. But again, it's like none of these guys I have really strong stances on. So, I mean, it's just whatever the optimizer gives me, I guess. Josh Bilicki's not bad at road courses, but just didn't really show much speed in practice. If I had to guess who'll pop the most, it'll probably be Harrison Burton, Zane Smith, LaJoie, and then Gilland. And I'm really just fine with any of these guys. Really, I don't think any of them are complete fades, maybe besides like Effinger. I don't really think we're going to get much out of him. But with that being said, guys, that's all I got for you this weekend. So hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure you like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. And don't forget, I'll be live on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, fielding all your questions and just hanging out, having a good time. And don't forget, if you've ever been on the fence of joining Patreon, things like that, they're now offering a free trial, so you can come in, check it out, risk-free. If you like it, you can stay. If not, you can certainly leave, but all my content will be over there, so if you want to come in, check it out. Link will be down below in the description or the pinned comment for that. But I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all tomorrow.